Welcome to Current Situation, your weekly political pulse. I'm your host, Joshua Gale, always alongside South Carolina State House Representative Jordan Pace. Every week, our goal is to help you navigate the complex world of politics through a biblically conservative perspective. Before we jump into today's conversation, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Smashing Plastic Pickleball Apparel.
Get ready to dive into a world of greatness with Smashing Plastic Pickleball. Elevate your game and look good doing it. From beginners to pros, we've got gear for every player. But that's not all. Planning an event? Let our experienced team make it a smashing success. Want to improve your skills? Our certified PPR professionals offer top-notch coaching, clinics, and lessons for all levels. Don't you wait. Experience the greatness of Smashing Plastic Pickleball today. Visit our store, join our events, and unleash your pickleball passion.
Today, we're discussing the civil government's responsibility to protect children from harm. You know, Jordan, the porn industry generates more income than combined revenues of ABC, NBC, CBS, and more than the combined incomes of the NFL, the NBA, and Major League Baseball. In the US, the porn industry generates between 15 billion and 97 billion a year. That's $3,000 every second being spent on pornography. Today, we have something to celebrate. South Carolina almost unanimously passed a bill, correct, in the state house that would protect children from being able to view pornography on a computer, which is
Computer,
a
tablet, phone,
and computer,
any
tablet, phone,
Yep.
everything. We've seen other states already do this, Louisiana, North Carolina, some others that have really put a huge damper on that $97 billion a year industry, which also funnels sex trafficking, abuse, all these different things. We're not even taking it into account, psychologically, the harm that pornography has when related to dopamine levels and all these different things that have destroyed so many people's lives, and it's something to celebrate today. We weren't the first state to do it, but I will take it as a major victory for this
Absolutely.
state, and for the future of our children. I'm so thrilled. Now I say we almost unanimously did it,
Yep.
but there's a clip that I got a hold of, and it's during that debate. But one person steps out on the floor. His name's Justin Bamberg. You may know Justin from the Alex Murdaugh trials, and he's an attorney, and he's a Democratic representative from Bamberg, South
Right.
Carolina, also where Nikki Haley's from. There's a school there, some things like that, but there's some incredible people from Bamberg. But South Carolina and Bamberg, if you want to say that, but both were poorly represented by Justin today on the House floor. This video will probably circulate the internet, cause a lot of jokes. I don't take protecting children as something. I love to laugh, Jordan. I
Yeah.
literally love to laugh. Fun and laughter are values of mine, but there is a time and a place.
Right.
And as a statesman, statesmen should understand that there's a place, and it's not the House floor, and it's not when we're talking about children and pornography.
My friend
And
Adam
so,
made that same point on the floor after what was said by this individual. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So the quote, we're going to roll the reel here, which starts off with the quote. And if you can't understand it, Justin Bamberg says, I'll tell you what, I have a strong right hand. Um,
Yep.
Number one, that's disgusting.
Yep.
Number two, we don't need to know about your personal life and things like that, but we're talking about children. And then he goes on to make a poor excuse about allowing, what's right and wrong is the eye of the beholder when it comes to parents and what they show their children, things like that. I'll let you speak into that a little bit, but let's go ahead and play that clip.
Here to tell y'all where I stand on it. I'll tell you I have a strong right hand. All right, but in all seriousness, Hey, come on now. When you look at this bill, I do really want you to think about freedoms for adults. Freedoms for adults. I was on the subcommittee on this particular bill, and one concept that was raised when this bill was being discussed is the balancing act, right? Everyone wants to protect children. In all seriousness, everyone wants to protect children. Everyone wants children shielded the best they can be shielded from the realities of the world that we live in today, things that may be damaging or harming to them. I will say that in some regards, that's in the eye of the beholder, or the eye of the parent. But we have to balance that with the freedoms that grown men and women have in our country. And that is my concern with this bill. So, for example, right, and this is why we shouldn't hurriedly rush through legislation. If you read this strike and insert amendment, there is absolutely nothing in the legislation that allows a parent in the state of South Carolina to consent for their minor to have access to pornographic materials as defined in this bill. I can't consent under this to letting you watch porn at home. I have a problem with that. I have a niece.
All right, Jordan, can you tell us a little bit more about what happened today on the State House, what we're celebrating, but also um, this incident?
Yeah. So this bill that we passed has passed, like you said, in other states. In Louisiana, it passed unanimously, was signed by their Democrat governor. Same in North Carolina, signed by the Democrat governor. So many states have already passed this. And what those states have shown is a dramatic, like massively dramatic decrease in the availability of children to get a hold of this material on the internet. Historically, every state in the country has had age restrictions on something adult bookstores or adult stores, whatever they want to call them different things in different states. But you know, a kid can't go in there. A kid can't go into even tobacco stores or liquor stores and buy the stuff. So there's the principle there is we want to protect children from making harmful decisions and imbibing things that are going to harm them. Uh, so that's what this bill was about. Essentially it requires the websites to verify that their users are adults, and the way that they're required to do that is the user has to scan like a government issued ID to prove they are who they are and that they're not a minor. And effectively, this killed the whole pornography industry in Louisiana over the last year or so. I mean, it's on effectively life support. And I mean, this is good. I mean, the average, from the stats we heard today on the floor, like the average kid is 8, between the ages of 8 and 9, the first time they see
Wow.
or exposed to this stuff,
Yeah.
which is just horrendous. That age has continued to decrease as the internet becomes more and more available, whether through smartphones or tablets or computers or what have you. So essentially, just putting those safeguards. There was some criticism on the floor. Name it's a good bit from our the gentleman in that clip that the kids will find ways around it, and then he went into that whole spiel about, well, what about parents who want to give consent to their kids to see this stuff? Which I mean, that's in South Carolina. I don't know about other states. In South Carolina, it's illegal to give your underaged adult children. So if between the ages of 18 and 20, parents can't legally give them alcohol in their home. That's been illegal for a decade or longer.
Right.
Uh, so it's just bizarre arguments against the bill. It wound up being the only no vote on it. It was like 105 or 104 to 1 in the House. So that's something to celebrate. That at least we have some modicum of sanity even in these times, to know that this isn't something kids should have access to. Uh, yeah, in Oklahoma, a newly elected senator, a guy named Dusty Devers, who's a pastor. He's pastor, business owner, and now newly elected state senator. He actually went a step further than this. In Oklahoma, he filed a bill to effectively just ban it entirely.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll get there one day, but this is a step in the right direction.
Right. And that's the hope for South Carolina. And when the church does step up, we want to be the state of firsts again. I
Hmm.
want to be the state where we set the record for the rest of the United States to follow suit. Um, we've been there before. We will be back there again. Um, you
If
know, I've
if the
watched.
churches step up, I mean that's the role here. And we talked about
Right.
the role of civil government in protecting kids, and this is one of those ways. But the way the church has to step up and step into this realm is not backing away from uh, being involved in the political process, but stepping into that, not being scared away from the process, but really teaching, um, discipling, and encouraging uh,
Yeah.
strong Christians to be involved.
Yeah. It's understanding your identity in Jesus, which is what you're going to pull your power and authority from.
Hmm.
We're called to rule, reign, and occupy. And, you know, again, we've spoken about this before, um, that we're going into government to take back what the enemy's stolen.
Hmm.
The blood of Jesus has already paid for everything. We just need to stand in our place as the church and stand in that authority that the blood of Jesus has already paid for all this.
Yeah.
So really, Jordan, I look at the trends of the world, um, and the schemes of the enemy, and I look at what becomes normalcy,
Hmm.
whether it may become pornography. Pornhub spent millions and millions and millions, a portion of probably what they do make, on
Hmm.
billboards to make normalcy around pornography, to just make everyone feel like this is the most normal thing in the world and it's good for you and all that stuff, when science, psychology, things prove the
Yeah.
destructive behavior that comes with that and a lot of celebrities have spoken out about it, that it's interrupted their work and
Hmm.
songwriting and things like that. And then, what's going on right now in the world, and I believe this is a part of it, is an exposing, and the Lord is exposing some deep, dark areas that are some grieving areas. That
Hmm.
one of the biggest implications of a pornography industry, and you'll see a lot of people speak out about all. If you go over to iamsecond.com and watch some videos about the destruction of pornography, but also the sex trafficking that's involved
Yeah.
in it, nobody says, "Hey, I'm going to go over here and step into sex trafficking. I think it's incredible."
Hmm.
No, they're deceived and put into it. So we see an exposing going on here, and it's great to see. But another one we'll see out of this is, you talk about parents wanting to show their children pornography. We're going to see pedophilia exposed even more,
Yeah.
and we're going to see, we'll see the opposite of that. People will try to, in California, try to normalize pedophilia and lessen the harsh penalties for being a pedophile. Um,
Which
and we as the
they
church can't stand for that.
yeah, they did that in California a couple of years ago. Uh, so that, you're right. There is definitely a separation amongst states on who we want to be as societies. Uh, Here, in to your point, that things get normalized when we fail to push back at on their attacks, or on their attempts to normalize that stuff. So, Mr. Bamberg on his quips and in that video was essentially making that argument, like, this is just normal stuff. It's not that big of a deal. He makes a joke about it, a very lewd, crude joke that even most of the people on his side of the aisle were not okay with. Uh, I mean, the the pushing the envelope is pushing that normalization. We have on a local level. So hopefully, the pastors and churches in Bamberg when and if they hear about this, will openly say, "Hey, this is not right. This is not something we want our elected officials to do." But hopefully, going forward, and this is my hope and prayer, and I think we're heading that way, that it doesn't take something that lewd and crude uh, for church folks to say, "Hey, that's not right." Uh, Here's what the Bible has to say about that, and this is why it's why what something like that is wrong, and here's what's good, according to Scripture. Like we can't be afraid to say that. What's been normalized for the last 30 or 40 years is this idea that there's this neutral world that we should strive for. In reality, there is no neutrality on what's objectively right and wrong.
Right.
There's just objectively what is right and wrong. Uh, and we have to really own that going forward if we want to push back against the other side because they're making the claim, like you said, that their claim is what's right is in the eye of the beholder. If it's right for your family to show your kids pornography when they're whatever age, then they're claiming that you should be able to do that. That was his claim today on the House floor. Thankfully, he was the only one who seemed to believe that, at least put his name to it. Uh, but that's how it starts, and that's that's the norm in a lot of the country, whether it's
Right.
California or I heard about in Montana earlier this week. A family was torn apart by their state government. Their their version of DSS, I think it was CPS or something, came and took their child, who the child identifies as the wrong gender and wants to get procedures done. The family didn't support it, so the state government came in and took the kid. And I mean that's the other side's uh, what they're pushing because they believe what they believe is right, and they're going to push on everybody else. They don't believe in this idea of neutrality. Uh, so we have to not be afraid of saying, here's what's right, here's what's wrong, uh, and objectively, not because it's just what we believe. It's because the creator of the universe said this is what's right and wrong. Uh, so,
Right. You know, I'm a I'm a songwriter.
mhm,
And my wife and I we're releasing an album right now, and a lot of the songs that are on this album are songs that I wrote in my late teens and early 20s and my adolescence. I'm not ashamed of my adolescence, but looking back and looking through these songs and everything, I only knew what I knew.
mhm,
We could all look back, man, if I only knew now, back then, things would be a little bit different. Children do not possess the ability to make great decisions. You hand them a tablet, they're going to explore and explore and explore
mhm,
and explore. They're going to come to you at your weakness. Hey, can you turn my Wi-Fi on? Can you let me go after this? Um, Parents also are at capacity and don't understand. You know, Mickey Mouse came out of into public domain this year,
yeah,
which means some creepy weirdo people out there are going to take old Mickey Mouse, make it seem like a wonderful kid show, like they have done with
mhm,
some other things, and then they're going to turn it into something that's horrific that your children can't unsee.
yeah,
And it's
yes,
our job as parents to understand that there are people out there that want to corrupt your children, that want to show them things in whatever sick, demented way for whatever reason we don't always understand. But children do not possess the ability to make these life altering, changing decisions. And there's folks out there that would love to see your children mutilated. And I believe that there is a spirit of child sacrifice that is hovering around that wants to destroy children.
yeah. That's been
And
around. We see that all
thousands of
throughout the Old
years,
Testament, right?
thousands of
The
years.
the most horrific, demonic gods of the Canaanites and the Moabites and all, and the people that opposed the people of Israel. Part of their system was sacrificing children.
Yeah. So all this to say, we have a lot to celebrate.
Mhm,
This is a great day for the state of South Carolina. This is a great day in the nation. I hope to see many more great days like this that have unanimous support in the state house, that the men and women there can really get behind protecting our children. And I think we're going to unpack in the coming weeks education, pornography in schools,
Yeah.
things that we can do on a local level, that to make sure that when we're not around, that our children aren't being exposed to certain things and ideologies that we wouldn't approve of.
Because here's the reality: we all, I mean, clearly it was 105 to 1. Most of us in the state house know looking at this stuff on these websites is bad. But if you're paying attention to what's going on in and especially in your middle school and high school kids, like what are they reading? The books that they're reading are describing this stuff. And my friend Kathy Lanning from Mount Pleasant actually made this point on the floor when discussing it. Is one of the books that it's one of these horrible books that we are trying to expose as being in these classrooms talks about the kids doing this stuff with each other and learning it from watching it on the internet,
Wow.
like to further prove the point. But that should, I mean, we're that's something which should be tackled. We passed a bill last year that should help with that, and went to the Senate, really got gutted, and it's gone to what's now called a conference committee. So if the House or the Senate pass a bill and then change it significantly from what the other side passed, several members from both houses would get together and try to hash out the differences. So we think that they've come out with uh, a reasonable compromise on the differences between those that should really put a damper on that kind of material in the schools. Uh, and but that'll be the next fight. And the other side says it's book banning, or accuse us of all kinds of crazy out there accusations. Uh, but we're not banning the books. Parents, if they want to go buy these books for their kids, they're more than welcome to. The point the point we're trying to make is, as a society like that pays for these schools out of these government schools from our tax dollars, we're not going to have these pornographic materials in the schools. That's all we're saying. Uh, which was the norm until like 5 minutes ago. Uh, because because our society is in reality based on objective right and wrong as found in the Bible. Uh, and we got to head back that direction.
Absolutely, absolutely. We could stand here and we could unpack all of that and what that means and the history of all that. But we do want to respect everyone's time. Jordan, um, again, we've said it before, know who's representing you at the state
Mhm.
house level. So this is one issue where obviously it's one person who had something to say. Bamberg, right outside of Orangeburg, South Carolina. If you have some friends there, we can do better. That's your representation. But
Yeah.
know that there are things happening weekly in the state house and that your voice is being represented by your state representative. We have to be in tune with what's being done at the state house if we want to, be represented well.
Mm.
So, with that being said, again, the app that we said with the South Carolina State
Mhm.
legislation app, get it, understand what's going on, stay in the know. Rather than scrolling through social media, get on there, figure out what's going on. It'll better you, your family, the
Yeah.
future, your money, all of that kind of stuff. And so, Jordan, any final thoughts before we sign off?
I would say to call your senators and ask them to pass this bill when we send it over to them next week.
Awesome, awesome. And Jordan does do some updates. If you're not subscribed to Jordan's emails, go over to the currentsituationpodcast.com, click on the link for Jordan's website, and sign up for his newsletters. Again, thank you for tuning in, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend, and we will see you next week.